All right. Well, we are live for the first ever NFL film school that is being done live. So it's great. You're going to have the chance to ask a lot of questions to John Sheeran. Now, we are going to be sharing John's screen, but we don't know how to share it when I am speaking. So we apologize for that. So you're going to see his screen. John will be talking, and then I'll jump in, and you won't really see the film. It'll be very small, but then we'll continue with the film. So if anybody knows how to correct that, please let us know. We are going to start now. So John, you're going to take us through some of the defensive plays, why the Bengals struggled in terms of tackling without Vontaze Burfict, Preston Brown, and others. And he's also going to show us what was wrong on two of the Andy Dalton interceptions when John Ross was targeted, and how John Ross, even without catching the ball that much, is still bringing something to the field.
Yeah, and so for starters, I want to apologize to Panthers offensive coordinator Norv Turner. When he took over the Panthers offense, I didn't have a lot of I think most people knew that Cam Newton was a very talented quarterback and he can do a lot of things, but I didn't think that Norv Turner, in his history of being an offensive coordinator and an installer of scheme and offense, would maximize Cam Newton in this Panthers offense as well as he did. But that was obviously not the case up against a battered Bengals defense. And we're going to see that on one of the first drives of the Panthers offense. We're going to have the Bengals here. They're in nickel personnel, right? They have Jesse Bates as the single high free safety. You have Sean Williams, kind of like a de facto box defender here, but we're going to have a wrinkle with the motioning of, I think that's DJ Moore, going into the backfield, kind of looping around. And the Panthers are kind of in this like read option kind of set. You see this triangle between Cam, Christian McCaffrey, and the up back here. And we're just going to have a little up back, goes into the second level to block the linebackers, a little handoff to Christian McCaffrey. And you can just see of all the things that are going on here. You have both linebackers, Nick Vigil and Hardy Nickerson, crashing down off of the edge, but you have nobody filling into this gap. And the only guy who does is Sean Williams, who takes maybe one of the worst angles I've ever seen a safety actually take. And Williams is actually crashing back off the initial play. And we can see a lot better here on the end zone angle. So we're going to have Dennard in zone coverage kind of motion over towards the box. So this gives the Bengals technically 7 guys in the box, where we're going to see the threat of Cam keeping this ball with the read option here with this trailing receiver takes away Dennard. It keeps Willis on his tails. And you also have Ryan Glasgow and Andrew Billings completely gap. And the whole play really is something that's called a counter, where you have the backside guard and tackle pull around the line of scrimmage, and the counter action between the mesh point with the quarterback and running backs and some down blocks on the front side of the play. And the biggest problem here is the over pursuit by both linebackers, Nick Vigil and Hardy Nickerson, as they just run into these pulling blocks perfectly. And at this point, the Panthers schemed space open for McCaffrey to go into this gap and essentially create an advantage for McCaffrey to just go in untouched, and he kind of does the rest here and goes off for a 45-yard game, only saved by Jesse Bates' tackle.
All right, so I understood about like 10 or 15% of that, and from what I gathered, it was a great scheme, offensive scheme, and the Bengals weren't prepared for it. So, John, are we looking at problems in terms of personnel, with all the injuries, or defensive coaching as well? And do you think with the guys coming back, Preston Brown, maybe, Adolphus Washington being added to the roster? Of course, we lost Ryan Glasgow, who's actually having an outstanding season. Do you think, with the personnel, we have the personnel to stop these kind of plays? And it's the coaching, or what is it?
I would say that in terms of pass coverage, the difference between Hardy Nickerson and Preston Brown is not that great. But in terms of just general feel for the play and just feel for the game, Hardy Nickerson is not a starter in this league. and he was really exposed this past week. So obviously, with getting back Preston Brown, hopefully this week, and Vontaze Burfict for the week after that, it's going to make some type of difference. But this was also just a case of an offense just scheming guys into favorable positions, into favorable situations, and scheming their run game as a whole into better situations, into lighter boxes where they can take advantage of more space. And we're going to see this same play, the same concept work against the Bengals later on in the game as well. This is the Panthers' third touchdown of the game. It was really weird to watch this unfold on the broadcast angle because as you see up top here, William Jackson is the play side corner of this play, and he's going to end up all the way back here because this is the Bengals are going to run a variation of quarters with two safeties and two cornerbacks playing here. But again, we're going to see one outside receiver. In this case is Christian McCaffrey. Kind of wrap around the formation here. This sets off for these force defenders here. They have to acknowledge him here. But it's the same kind of play though, right? You had in this case a fake handoff and the threat of a read option here with the lead blocker going in this area. So the whole attention of this play for this side of the defense is that okay, we got to take care of this side, and no one's really thinking about the play coming back here. And they because of the success that they had last on this play previously, Panthers knew this and they could take advantage of it. So what does Cam do? He pulls the ball back, he gives it to CJ Anderson, who wisely kind of eliminates himself from the play and then turns his head around. Ample space for Anderson to run behind a convoy of blockers for one of the easiest touchdowns that the Panthers are going to score all season. And this was all based upon taking advantage of a pass look that they did very earlier in the game and kind of biting the Bengals right in the butt again.
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, they were outcoached. We'll give them that. But like you said, the Panthers have exceeded our expectations with the way they played offensively. Now they're not one of the leaders, I don't think, in yards or points, but it's been an effective offense. So
this is just a testament of Norv Turner's ability to maximize his players, and I think that honestly, Terrell Austin and the Bengals defense were kind of taken a little bit back. And it wasn't all just scheme. I would say that the Panthers also just simply beat up the Bengals up front. This play was a good example of that. So we're going to have the tight end motion across the formation. And something that I noticed in the preseason training camp is that the Bengals are really trying to rotate their defensive linemen around. And as we see Ryan Glasgow, the 3 technique, Andrew Billings, the 1 technique. Andrew Billings is the 1 technique on what was formerly the weak side of the play. Tight end switches over. They're switching back and trying to stay into that 4-3 over front. I'm just going to run a simple outside zone. And again, this is still over, very bad over pursued by Hardy and Nickerson here. It flows way over to this gap over here. All these gaps are covered, but obviously Bengals got killed with cutback lanes as nobody could really get off blocks. It's good gap discipline from the defensive linemen up front because they show their color into their gaps. McCaffrey's reading, he can't really go anywhere in his primary reads, but there's always a cutback lane available if your guys on the backside can't get off blocks. And we see Andrew Billings can't get off, Jordan Evans can't get off. Jordan Willis was obviously way further out than what he should have been. He tries to make a play, but that happens like 6 yards down the field. He misses the tackle. Nobody's really there to clean it up. And I think the cutback lanes were one of the key killers for the Bengals defense going up against what was thought to be a battered and second string offensive line for the Panthers. And we even see the center. The center falls down when trying to pull around the line of scrimmage. The Panthers are working with one less blocker, and they still get McCaffrey not touched for like 5 yards on this play and eventually a first down. So this was just a clear lack of physicality and ability to win individual assignments for the Bengals run defense. And that ended up with McCaffrey getting like 180 yards on the ground.
Well, I'm looking forward to the game in Atlanta. They don't have the dual threats. They don't have. I know Matty Ice. He had the 2 touchdown runs. People joke about that. He has as many as Christian McCaffrey or something like that. In 1 week he had. But he's not really a threat on the ground the way Cam Newton is. So we knew it was a bad matchup for the Panthers.
Right.
you don't expect to see similar struggles next week, do you?
I think the Falcons' offensive line is a little bit better than what the Panthers have, so that could still be an issue, especially if um, Josh Topo is going to play a little bit more, I think, because of the injury to Ryan Glasgow. Billings needs to play better. I think even Geno Atkins has to play better in run defense. I think it was just an overall bad day for the middle of the Bengals defense. We're going to see another example of that right here. We're going to have that. We're going to have, again, a receiver motion into the backfield, occupies Dennard, who's playing the slide. He kind of comes into the box. We're going to see the receiver kind of draw Dennard out just enough, and we're going to have that same. This time it's actually a guard tackle. I think the first play was a guard. It was the tight end acting as the tackle, pulling around the line of scrimmage. But again, down blocks here, takes out the defensive interior. Guard and tackle pull around the line of scrimmage. Nickerson just kind of running into the block willy-nilly. He doesn't have anybody behind him who can clean up this play, but he doesn't really know that, I guess. And McCaffrey is just escorted very cleanly into the second level and gets the first down off of it. And this is just another good case of good play calling, getting this receiver to draw out Dennard, lighten up the box a little bit. And when you have a defensive line who can win one-on-one assignments in the run game and gets, I mean, for God's sakes, man, look at Geno Atkins. Just gets escorted way out of the formation. When we have Jordan Willis here on the front side, he's handled by a tight end in the combo block with the right guard, I believe, or excuse me, with the left guard pulling around. And again, that is where you hope the difference between Preston Brown and Hardy Nickerson is. He takes on this block a lot more aggressively, is able to somehow meet McCaffrey there in the gap instead of just passively just being there without any help behind him. And finally, we have Nick Vigil, who's completely negated in the second level. So bad day for Bengals linebackers playing run defense. You know, North Turner and the Panthers offense really schemed their guys into favorable situations. But again, the lack of physicality from the Bengals in the middle of their defense was very staggering, to say the least.
Well, I mean, I know Geno Atkins had a great game pass rushing. I saw the stats and that, but I guess maybe not against the run. But it's a team game. I mean, football is very much a team game. So I mean, we don't hold that against Geno. But maybe the humidity, maybe it was just the cumulative kind of being worn down by their physicality. But yeah, that I don't know what happened with Geno on that play. But I had the question. So Dennard was a good tackler in college. Do you think he's been good overall in his NFL career as a tackler?
Oh yeah, he led the team in tackles last season as the starting slot cornerback. This had nothing really to. This wasn't an indictment on his tackling abilities. It was just something that I noticed in how the Panthers kind of used motions out of the backfield to kind of get him to get their running game a little more space into the second level. But Dennard is a good tackler. I think that's one of his better strengths. He's not in a similar way to Dre. He's not the best guy cornerback to play when he's not looking at the ball. In terms of finding the ball, his ball skills aren't that great. But I think in terms of a physical corner who can handle press, who can handle guys out of the slot, he's definitely up there in terms of young guys around the league.
Now, we haven't talked a lot about the passing game. There were some plays where guys broke free, where it was kind of confusing, and like you said, they just this North Turner was supposed to be outdated. He out schemed us on other plays, but yeah. So people are wondering, because we're looking forward to Julio Jones. Do you think, because Dre had another bad game, do you think that someone is asking, Adrian V is asking if we should maybe have William Jackson III cover the number one receiver and let Dre kind of have lesser assignments?
Yeah, it's a decent idea, but it kind of goes against what I think Terrell Austin wants to do. And similar to the Bengals defense now, the Seahawks defense at their height, they were just straight up cover three. They would have Richard Sherman always on. I believe it was the same side that Dre covers on the defense, and I think Byron Maxwell, where William Jackson was at the other cornerback. And they would have Earl Thomas play single high safety on the defense. And Richard Sherman never followed the number one receiver, just kind of like what Patrick Peterson does in Arizona. And I don't think that just because Dre is being targeted a lot and being picked on a lot of these short routes that they're somehow going to change that, because as we know, coaches are pretty stubborn. I think it's a good idea to have their best cornerback follow their best receiver, but until they do it, I can't say with any confidence that it's going to happen, just because Dre's allowed a lot of catches in just 3 games.
All right. Well, what I like seeing in the comment section is all the positivity. I see a lot of guys saying, look, we missed Vontaze and Preston Brown, Christopher Robinson. I love you. You say it's a small thing, baby. We're going to bounce back. I agree. I didn't see a bad team. I saw a bad day for a good team. So I like that. And with that, if it's okay, John, are we done with defense? Because I'd like to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think we covered defense enough.
Okay. So let us move to the offense now, where a lot of people are blaming John Ross. And look, he didn't have a great game. He didn't show great awareness or the ability to box out on plays. I agree. But none of this means he's going to be a bust or that he's done. And that's something you've written about. I saw your article. It was fantastic. And you're going to show us why today. So go ahead.
Yeah, so let's start. Let's just get the warts out of the way. Let's just cover the 2 interceptions thrown at John Ross. So the first one happened a little before the end of the first quarter. And mind you, before this, for a little context, this is 3rd and 17. And the play right before this was a little quick out to AJ Green up here, just around in this general area. And it was called incomplete, but we never saw a replay of why that happened, because it looked like he had the ball 2 feet in. And so if that play is called complete, I think it changes the play calling a little bit, because now we're at 3rd and 17. So the first down is right around here. I think it's right about at the 35-yard line. And we're going to see Dante Jackson, their rookie cornerback, kind of run this deep comeback route for Ross for him. And this is so critical for a young cornerback. And I know this is about Ross, but I can't help but not praise Dante Jackson for playing at the sticks, right? Because the sticks are right here. He's not giving him enough. He's not giving him the cushion he wants to create at the top of his route to get the space to catch this cleanly. And so Ross doesn't really do a good job of selling that vertical threat, because because Jackson knows where the first down is to gain. So he's not giving up that initial space. So at the top of his route, he doesn't create any separation at this point. So this is a completely contested catch. And I said this is a comeback, not a curl, because and the difference between a comeback and a curl is that if it's a curl route, then Ross is basically breaking out towards the middle of the field, because as a comeback, he's breaking out towards the sideline. So Jackson notices this and plays the outside of Ross perfectly, because he knows, based off of Ross's movements, that's where the ball's going to be. Dalton wants to put this ball on the outside because of the route that Ross is trying to run. But Jackson does a great job of, again, settling down the sticks, not giving Ross any space, and he honestly finds the ball and just plays it a lot better than Ross. And I think Ross kind of is a little too late on turning back to the ball, and Dalton tries to get the ball as quickly as possible because he kind of senses the pressure allowed by Cordy Glenn off the backside. And unfortunately, this is just a great play made by a promising cornerback. And unfortunately for Ross, it was just the first of a couple mistakes, crucial mistakes, that kind of changed the outcome of this game. See the end zone angle here. Kind of the same thing. This is a longer throw than it looks like on the broadcast, because that's from the far hash going towards the sideline, about 18 yards away in terms of straightaway distance, but the hypotenuse probably give this distance well over 30 yards. The ball takes a long time of getting there, and if it's late in any case, like it is here, then the cornerback is going to be in great position to make a play on the ball, and that's exactly what he did. But I guess what people want to know is that if Ross can give a better effort in terms of going up for this ball, and I guess it's really subjective because it doesn't look like he's really going up for the catch. It almost looks like he's just boxing out Jackson because he has a better chance of making this play. And I guess it all really goes to your own perspective about whether or not Ross did a good enough job here at the top of his route.
But I mean, that's one thing we consider is his ability to be physical, which is limited. He's not a physical receiver, And so that is what coaches need to figure out, how to scheme someone who's not that physical open, So you can't really blame Ross because that's who he is that's what his body is.
Right. And and then later in the game, when I think we all know what happened here on this play, we have a 2nd and 20 just after a 10-yard sack on Dalton after Tyler Croft had to make one of the toughest blocks in football. And there were some questions about what really happened on this play, but I'm going to break it down in I broke this down on Twitter, and I'm going to give everybody the same clip of what I posted. And I'm just going to basically read off what it is. So the Bengals are running the scissors concept with Tyler Boyd in the slot, John Ross on the boundary. The scissors concept dictates that Boyd is going to run a corner, Ross is going to run a post. And the whole thing that messes this play up is this play side safety here. So this safety realizes that, hey, Luke Kuechly, who's trailing Boyd here, he's probably not going to catch up to Ross, and Dalton is going to have a window to throw Boyd open here. So he decides, hey, I'm going to break towards the safety, but at the same time, his path really intersects with where Ross is trying to go, which is where the safety is at this point now. So at this point, Ross has to adjust his path to go around the safety before he almost runs into him. And what that does is that gives out the impression that Ross is kind of continuing along the vertical path of where he started this route. So because of this, Dalton thinks that, hey, I mean, I got to get this ball out. This has been like 2.5 seconds in the pocket. I got an edge rusher right in front of me who's about to bend around and maybe strip sack this. So I got to get this ball out. So he doesn't have time to wait to see if Ross continues on the form of an actual post route. And what ends up happening is that he throws it into a place where Ross doesn't end up being, and Ross, thinking that the ball's not coming his way, he ends up not looking for it and basically gives off the impression that he gives up on the play, because in Ross's mind, he's thinking, yeah, there's no way, like, this has been far too long. Like, I've had to adjust my route. I've had all this stuff kind of happening. You know, I'm just going to not look for the ball. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's what was going on in his mind. So in my opinion on this play, it's just a clear miscommunication between quarterback and wide receiver. And an unfortunate variable that none of them expected was this safety really messing up the whole direction of Ross's route and really causing some confusion with Dalton. But, everybody defends the quarterback, and everyone's going to say this is completely on Ross for just giving up. And I'm not absolving him of that blame. I do think that Ross should have at the very least looked back a lot sooner than he did and at least try to make an effort to break up this easy interception from Dante Jackson. But at the same time, it was also on Dalton for not trusting that Ross is going to finish this route into the original direction that he was going towards.
Well, I mean, yeah, in Ross's defense, the space that he was running to, there's, a lot of open space. So that would have been a logical place to throw the ball, right? I mean,
right. So because at the same time, we have Josh Malone here running a deep over, and this kind of occupies the other safety. And because this other safety is not playing with this amount of depth, that post becomes even more open than it once was.
Yeah, but at the same time, and I don't know if it looks like he's not looking for the ball, and that is not excusable on any play, especially for a younger player. And I think that's the issue, is that until you establish yourself and you're, older player who can, his body, they don't expect to be so ready to just run the whole game. Until you've gotten somewhere in your career, you should be running 100% effort every single play, and
yeah. No, yeah, I think you make a good point, and I'm obviously putting myself in Ross's position because I think that his whole viewpoint of this play is a lot more interesting than Dalton, who's the eighth year veteran. But yeah, I think that definitely has some weight to it. Where it's not a good look for Ross any way that you try to slice this. At the very least, he should be finishing his route, looking back towards the ball, because I think that's something that Boyd has also established in his time. Progressing into year 3, I think that third touchdown, that Dalton's second touchdown of the game to Boyd in the end zone was based off of Boyd at the top of his route, looking back towards Dalton, and then both of them making something happen. So that's something that Ross just kind of has to learn, and this is a big pivotal lesson for him to build off of.
Yeah, and so you wanted to show some plays where he cleared out the space, right?
Yes, and this was one of the first plays, if not the. I'm not sure if this was actually the first play from scrimmage, but no, yeah, it was. It was the first play of the Bengals offense. We're going to see 11 personnel, Boyd in the slot, Green on the boundary, Ross here on the flanker. right? And there's going to be a couple wrinkles here. So we're going to have Green motion kind of stack behind Boyd. What's going to happen is that we're going to run a little levels concept with Boyd and Green. The Green is going to kind of settle down here in the short intermediate zone. This occupies Luke Kuechly. This opens up the middle of the field already for Boyd to run this deep over the middle. He has inside leverage against this cornerback, ample space. The only issue is this safety can still make the deep safety here can still make a play at the catch point if Dalton puts the ball in this general area. And this is where Ross really comes in, because he's given a free release off the line. He has inside leverage too. He can stack this cornerback, and he's already stacked the cornerback. So the safety has to respect Ross's speed here, and the whole purpose of Ross's route is to really clear out the safety and keep him occupied so he doesn't come crashing down over the middle. And because of this, Dalton gets rid of the ball. He throws it right over Luke Kuechly's head, and Boyd gets a very easy 23-yard touchdown, reception. And we're going to see what Dalton's seen here on the end zone angle. So again, Kuechly's occupied here. He's trying to take away over the middle. Dalton's first initially looks over to Eifert, and Ross, to really sell the safety at this point, comes back to Boyd right over the 41. I think he's a safety. And Boyd gets an easy first down because he's not only separates from the cornerback so well, but he has so much space over the middle of the field because that safety is occupied by Ross's speed. And that was the whole point of Ross on this play.
And let's be honest, that was the whole point of drafting Ross. I mean, we had Tyler Boyd. He had a solid rookie year. We had Brandon LaFell, who, I've said that had good chemistry with Dalton. And then we had one vertical threat in AJ Green, basically. And we knew the offense wasn't explosive enough and there wasn't enough space. So in addition to all the catches that we expect from Ross, this is what we wanted. We wanted to change the dynamic of the offense, to make things a little easier in the passing game.
Exactly. And speed really, that dimension of speed that Brandon LaFell didn't bring on the outside, it really opens up things for other receivers. And even if Ross is not producing with stats, he's producing with fear, and he has to keep the safeties occupied. And that's exactly what we're going to see on this next play, the final play that we're going to cover. So here, what is the situation here? 3rd and 10, right? 3rd and 10, Bengals down by a touchdown. I believe this was one of the plays, if not the play, after strip sack on Dalton got reversed into an incompletion. So we're gonna see a classic zone cover 3 beater. We're going to see a deep out and a go. Again, Ross is going to be the one who runs the clear out route, and we're going to see Boyd open up towards the boundary side here. And again, Panthers are running zone, right? So this cornerback has responsibilities of this deep third. We got this deep safety on this deep half. And the whole purpose of Ross's route here is to just, again, eat up that cushion that Dante Jackson is giving him, and he eats it up so quickly, like just insanely quick. That's like 7 yards of cushion just eaten up in like a matter of seconds. And he's got Jackson already on the backpedaling. He still has his eyes back on the ball because he's still technically playing zone coverage. He still technically has this safety to help him out inside. So, and he still technically has this portion of the field, but he knows that with how far Ross takes him back, that the space has opened up for Boyd to enter this little portion of the field, and that the underneath defenders down here, they aren't going to be able to catch up with Boyd in time because, again, this is zone coverage, and they're not covering him on a bump and run basis. So right as Dalton hits the back foot, he knows he's got Boyd breaking over the middle because the corner can't just streaking down the field with that great speed, and that space opens up another big completion for Tyler Boyd. A lot of Tyler Boyd's yards in this game came off of Ross clearing out space for him, and I think he owes him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think Tyler Boyd, like I think you've said, Joe has said, that's a really good example to use for being patient with Bengals receivers, like John Ross, even Marvin Jones.
Exactly.
Marvin Jones, who's so talented. I mean, this guy's Pro Bowl level talented. He wasn't a big contributor early. Now, whether that's the way they develop their players or whether that's because they're drafting most of these guys in later rounds, John Ross was drafted early. Whatever it is, it's the receivers. We've said this. Receivers are not always going to jump into the NFL and contribute right away. So Obviously, John Ross can play in the NFL. We know that. Obviously, he can bring some X factor type thing. Now, is he going to be a number one or number two option? We don't know, but he's going to be a contributor, and that's what these people who are angry are losing sight of. But that, I think, is the show. So thank you so much, John. I apologize I couldn't contribute that much because of the issue with the camera, and also I don't know much about football. But I want to real quickly announce the winner for today. So each week we have a drawing of drawings. So we have someone who won a drawing of Hoji reading off a script, and Dadio acting like a schoolgirl. And these are original drawings from the first season of the show in 2013 when we did our first season preview. And the winner is Bit Itch. So Bit Itch, if you are listening, please contact us. You can reach out to Daddy on Twitter, or you can go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/DHSportsTV. And we will send you this drawing. So congratulations. Now remember, we're going to be doing these every week until we reach 2019 subscribers, because that is the year the Bengals will win their first Super Bowl. John, any final comments?
Yeah. Again, be patient with Ross. The production will eventually come if he just keeps doing what he's doing. I think that the Bengals could do a lot better job of using him on underneath stuff and really scheming him the way that the Chiefs schemed Tyreek Hill. But do not write in ink what you think about Ross just yet, because I think that he has the tools to make you eat those words.
I agree with that, and I will say that we are going to be, I think we're going to see a different kind of reaction to Ross. I think he could have a big game against the Falcons with their safeties out. I think he could have a breakout game, and all the negativity kind of building up. And like Marvin Lewis says, if he just relaxes and frees his mind, and he can just let the game come to him naturally. So we are going to cover that game after the Bengals play on Sunday. And we're going to do that show live as well. So make sure to tune in. And thank you for watching. We will see you next time. The Sweetie Pies.